Okay, we're back on track. So there's the minimum standards. So I've gone and created a secondary checklist for you. So that's sitting inside of there. The level of detail going on in condition report. So if you haven't already changed your conditions for your procedures for your condition reports, I've been speaking to a few agencies around this. And what I'd suggest is that if you are already taking lots of photographs, for the next little bit, and I'm talking about months, I would also be suggesting that you run with doing a walkthrough video. I wouldn't provide that to the tenant, but I'd certainly keep that on file, because there will be a stage down the track, 12 months, 14 months, 16, 18 months, where we're going to end up in VCAT, where we know that there'll be some issues around and issues with the tenant and issues with the owner around the changes that were made that we didn't have consent on. So what we want to be able to do is really highlight, and the agency has a responsibility now, highlight the condition of the property at the commencement of the tenancy. So we need to make sure we're really focusing on that right now. Rent reviews, you can start doing those. I'd be communicating through to the owners right at the moment. When we go through, we do our rent reviews, internal procedures. In the past, most agencies don't do a comparable market analysis. I see often a $5 increase or a $10 increase. And then when I query the PMs, I'm told, oh, that's what the owner wanted. You know, $5 increases is hardly worth the effort of doing. And now, because you can only do them each 12 months, I most certainly wouldn't be doing $5 increases. But what you need to be able to do is, as part of your rent reviews, and again, this is a procedural change, as part of your rent reviews, you need to be able to actually justify how you came up with that figure. So I think what we're probably going to find is less tenants querying it and going to Consumer Affairs, because normally what happens when a tenant queries a rent increase, they go to Consumer Affairs. Consumer Affairs asks the agent what their justification was to provide the comparables, and there weren't any. So therefore, Consumer Affairs says no to the rent increase. So moving forward, part of your procedures, just one of, if you haven't already done this now, because we're going to start doing rent increases as of Monday, I would imagine. If you haven't already gone through and adjusted your rent review process, that would be a no. Put that in through to there. But these are the things that you need to go through. And your rental arrears process. So this is, again, you've got a whole change on this. Has it been changed on your website? So firstly, you need to change your internal procedures, because your rent arrears process, now we need to adapt or adopt to the 4 strikes. I would look at landlord communication for that one. I would also look at my internal processes. I would then also make sure that I've spoken to the landlords about what the changes are. We can't go to VCAT on the 15th day like we used to. And I'd also then be going onto my website as of today and changing the arrears process, if you haven't already done that. So I've got 66 points in through to here, but that's one point, but it's got 3 or 4 different aspects. So there are lots there. If you haven't already done and made your changes to your rent arrears process, it's a no. And then we need to go through. This becomes your to-do list as of next week. We need to change, if you haven't already done this, need to make sure we change wherever you've got your procedures, and this is one of the reforms, Reform 8, with respect to the leasing staff as of tonight. So when the leasing staff leave tonight, they need to know what they can and cannot ask tomorrow when they're at open. So some opens will start at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. They need to make sure, you need to make sure that the team walk out of here really armed with the right information of what they can and cannot ask. So particularly around the Equal Opportunity Act, the Form 3, and the whole series of changes. Now, if you haven't already changed your application form, that needs to be done, particularly if you're using a paper form, that needs to have already been done. If it's no, if you haven't done some training and you haven't changed the script, your internal processes with your leasing team, again, it becomes a no. If it has, well done, because you definitely need it. It needs to be done before you finish off this afternoon. Don't just say it. Make sure you've got it written. I would be writing out what you can, what you can't say to a tenant. That also applies on Monday morning when you start receiving application forms. You need to make sure that you're not asking for particular forms, documents, forms, information. I did see during the week when I saw the IRE, which I was really surprised at. IRE removed occupation from one of their questions. I found that to be a little bit silly, but date of birth, of course, the passport can't ask for that as well. So there's a whole series of things that we can't ask for moving forward. Of course, if a tenant provides them, brilliant, but you can't ask for them. Now we go on to prescribed forms. Now there's 13 categories in through to here. We're at 6. So I just want you to make sure we're going to run through these, and you can do the rest of them this afternoon. This becomes your checklist where you go through and work through how are you tracking. If you can go through at the end of the day and you've got more boxes in the yeses than you've got in the no's, then you're on track. If you're sitting here at 5 o'clock this afternoon and you've got more no's, it's probably going to be a tough weekend for you, because you really need to have a look at your priorities, what you need to get done straight away, what you can do during the week. This becomes your day one rollout plan if it's not ready for today.